A centrepiece title in this year's Fantastic Fest lineup is Juan Felipe Zuleta's Unidentified Objects, a road movie drama that pairs an alien abductee experiencer on her way to a foretold rendezvous with a young man named Peter, played by this force of nature before us, actor Matthew August Jeffers. Mate, welcome to Screen Watching. It's so lovely to talk to you.
Thanks for having me. It's a joy.
I'm going to let you describe Peter, how you formed his character, what you zeroed in on in your performance, what most interested you about his arc. Tell us about the Peter that you know.
When Juan Fei and I first started, really talking about the film and and Peter's journey, I think, kind of together came to this really beautiful analogy of Peter as this extraordinary lighthouse that is ornate and well built and structured and deep and tall, but the light is out. There's just something just not there, right? Like the beacon is not operational, and it just in reading Peter's arc and Peter's journey, it felt right. It felt like that was really what he was, a man that has so much to offer and is obviously so smart and curious about the world and how it works, but kind of gets in his own way from lighting the way. From lighting his own way, that is largely due to crushing grief, right? And his self-loathing for how he believes the world perceives his disability, right? His dwarfism and how chained that is for him. But it's interesting because I have dwarfism. I relate in so many ways to the challenges that have that being different faces, but I had to cross a pretty long bridge to really know Peter, because I feel very fortunate in having wonderful friends and family and a beautiful support system. That is not Peter's reality at all. Very much isolated and very much out of his control that he's that isolated. So kind of getting to that point was kind of the crux of the biscuit and the hard part for me. Simply, one simple way I tried to gauge that color is, once we got to set on location for the duration of filming, I barely touched my phone. I removed myself completely from social media entirely. And I begrudgingly agreed to an agreement with my partner that we would have one call a week. For a limited amount of time, but truly that was it. I was annoying the crew members on set because I had my phone off and they were texting me like, what do you want for lunch? What do you want for dinner? Where are you? And I was just like, not there. But it really, it's those little things, those little real life things that you have to do in order to understand, in order to help you understand a character's perspective, right? Building empathy for the character.
I'll jump ahead in my questions a little bit here, because you touched on in your answer there. I want to, and without giving away any spoilers, but the diner scene where you berate the waitress and then reveal some very profound insights into what Peter's life is really like. It is superb film acting. It's superb film writing.
Leland's script across the board. Leland's script is really extraordinary. Yeah,
it really is. The intensity of emotion that comes with that scene must have been one of the more memorable moments on set. What were some of the others, and what was that scene like to shoot?
So that scene was actually the first day of filming.
No way! I get so many actors say that. I pick these intense scenes when I do these interviews, and so many actors say, "Well, that was the first day of shooting." Which is unbelievable.
Yeah. It was challenging. It was the first day. I remember obviously vividly. It was the first day of filming, and it was the last scene of the day. And I remember a couple of things, and I'll go through them. One is that the scenes prior, though they weren't as pivotal as that scene, there were scenes in the film, just, weren't clicking the way I would have liked. From my perspective. And everyone was still getting to know each other. We had literally all just met days before, and so you're figuring out how one works together. And that's why it was particularly intimidating to have that diner scene as the first day. And when we got to the diner, it was this beautifully lit diner. Felt very filmic being there, right? It was like, this could definitely be a diner in a film. And we did, I think, around 7 or 8 takes. And I was so frustrated because I was not accessing what I knew on the page and in my preparation needed to be accessed, right? Like you said, that is a pivotal moment in the scene. It is the first moment where audiences understand Peter's angle and can actually grow empathy for him, because up to that point, he's really kind of a jerk. And so that opening, I needed to portray that opening, and I just wasn't getting there. And so it felt very frustrating and felt very overwhelming, because I was like, we have 19 days left of pretty intense filmmaking. And Juan came up to me and he whispered something in my ear, and we did the next take, which I believe is the take that, ultimately made it into the film. And I do remember there was this like hushed silence in the diner after that take. I remember Camo, the wickedly talented cinematographer, came up and gave me a hug, and I could feel like his whole body, like I could feel that he was moved, right? Like that we had just done something, that we had just shot something that was impactful. And you could feel it in the, very sensitive to energies, and you could feel in the room that something had shifted, right? And from that moment, truly from that moment on, everyone involved on set felt like we were telling a story, and we were going to take audience, that if we were able to sustain that level of filmmaking across the board, acting, cinematography, directing, lighting, that that we were going to end up with a pretty compelling piece of film. And so, but other takes, like, to answer your question, other takes, there's a really, really scary, uncomfortable fight toward the end. It's kind of the climactic moment between Peter and Winona's journey together in the motel fight scene. And I think Juan, the director, was intimidated all week in leading up to that. We had a number of rehearsals. I could tell that he really wanted a specific angle on what that scene was to look like. And it was a small room, so there was a lot of technical, blocking and moving and lighting. And Juan knew that it wanted to be a one take, a oneer.
Wow.
And the big intimidating factor. And we did that in one take.
Oh my goodness. It's such an extraordinary, it's a classic indie film sort of story, that you pull these moments of film magic out of just the intensity of a tight shoot. And it's what it feels like. It feels like a classic indie film in that regard.
Yeah, very, very, very tight shoot, very, very, very little money. And it's interesting because from day one, Juan kept saying like, you like, just getting here is a miracle, but like actually making a good film, like a good story, takes like thousands of little miracles, like over and over and over and over and over again. Like you have so many things have to go right when you are so in such a limited box. And as we continued the story, it felt like, okay, today that happened, and then, oh my God, this happened. And then, can you imagine, we found that like a caterpillar on the side of the road, like, and we just like decided to put it into the film. Like, like those little moments that, like you said, there's just happy accidents that come both from like being lucky, but also being really prepared and being on top of the game, so that when those opportunities came, everyone was able to capitalize and tell the best story possible.
There's no Peter without Winona, played by the brilliant Sarah Hay. The understanding and the energy that comes from this confined shoot is certainly unique in that road movie structure. It intensifies emotions, and as anyone who's been on a long road trip will know. Tell us about the shared acting experience with Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I could speak for days about
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sarah. I love her. She's a star. She is a star. She looks like a star. And I remember the first time I met her, she actually had to go through Instagram to get this role
Wow.
because her agents turned it down. Her managers turned the script down because it was like, we're not doing this little indie with this unknown little person act, like fuck off. And she read the script. She read the script and reached out to Wanfei on Instagram and said, let's talk more. And then, we had Zoom meetings and instantly connected. And
Yeah.
it was, just getting her, like going back to the last question, the little miracles of how she decided to do it and how it all came to be. But yeah, we stayed. They messed up the motel reservation the first night, and we got to Maine at like 3 in the morning,
Oh,
and we ended up having to share a room, and we were virtual strangers, and we just sat and we talked like until daylight. And there were like 2 days of prep before we started shooting, and we just, I mean, like side by side, like tethered together, talking about life. And it was just, it just felt immediately, that there was a connection. And to be able to build that trust, right, with that acting partner is like everything, right?
yeah.
I mean, everything, especially like you said, a road trip where virtually the entire story hinges on the chemistry of the two actors.
Mm.
So it clicked.
It was wonderful. It really was. I guess that leads me to your life as an actor. Who are the acting greats that you admire? What are some of the film performances and the film writing and the monologues and the dialogue that you look to and think, as a young Matthew
Yeah.
August Jeffers, that's what I want to do?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many off the bat. It's hard to like mine,
Let's
but
go. Come on.
things that come to mind. Sean Penn and Dead Man Walking. I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
watching here like as a kid, and I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
that's what I did want to do. Like virtually anything Joaquin Phoenix does, right? It's this like effortless, right? Like it's what I aspire to be is like when someone watches me tell a story, it feels like wholly lived in, right? Like I am bringing my soul into this story, and that's what Joaquin does. It's what so many of the greats do. Peter Dinklage, obviously, on a more like specific level of, oh well, can I actually be a little person and succeed in Hollywood? And he was the first on a large scale to and a really impressionable period in my life, coming from high school to college, 2010, 2011, deciding to really like lean into acting and pursue it as a career, and then being able to go home at night on Sundays and watch Peter Dinklage, headline the biggest show in the world was key, right? And so to be able to watch that and become inspired by that, and kind of know that there was a green light, right? And it would still be my path and my career that I would have to forge. But watching that, it's like he was my Sidney Poitier, right? I mean, he was the guy that I got to see on screen and be like, I see myself in him. He looks like me. He is doing it on a profound level, right? On a profound scale. And so if he's kind of trailblazing, then I can certainly try and follow in his path. And yeah, those have been kind of the big names.
Was I hope you don't mind me asking, but was it written? Was Unidentified Objects written for a little person actor?
Yes.
Was it? Was it okay? So from the start, he came to you. There wasn't a lot of tinkering with the script that you had to do to bring it in line with your experience.
No, it was I think Juan Fei told me it was originally when Juan Fei and Leland got together and they were like, let's just fucking write something, because both of them had just been fired because of COVID, and they were both unemployed, and just they were like, let's make something, fuck it, we're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so they made Unidentified, but before that, the first idea was like a lesbian musical or something like that. It was
Oh, I've
supposed
got
to
to
be.
see that.
Yeah, so they for whatever reason they pivoted from that. I was obviously not, I would not have been involved in that, but
Can't sing.
no, it cannot sing. But Juan, I think it was Juan Fei was the one who originally came up with this idea, and I guess it was just cinematically interesting to him to watch, you know, a little person go on this like vast journey, right, with all these beautiful drone shots of the wilderness. And yeah, so they came to me, you know, they came to my agent, who's, you know, specializes in diverse casting, and they sent the script to me. And then as we got in the callbacks and started to like really talk about the film and the character, I gave them, they felt comfortable with me, kind of like with the freedom of writing like midget, right, in the story, where, you know, it's obviously a derogatory word, and without kind of my permission to tell like the truest story, that the most honest story and the most grounded story about a little person's journey that we could tell, like that was very much a collaborative effort. But it was the Unidentified Objects was always, you know, centered around a little person and a, you know, question mark bipolar Winona.
I mean, we can't ignore this question. I guess it's playing in a genre festival, so we better weigh in on that part of the story. Where do you stand on the whole alien abduction phenomenon?
Oh, you know, I grew up in a pretty conservative Jewish background. I went to a Jewish day school, and so it was like monotheism, like, yeah, you know, God, Hashem is like this guy in the sky, and you know, but I've made a big journey. I've made my own road trip journey from that, and am very much convinced that we are one of many civilizations, one of many beings out there in the universe, especially the James Webb tell us. It's like you watch, like you see how unfathomably large this space is, and it's like, you know, not judgmental, but I mean, how, when you see those images, like how can you really believe that it's just us? Like it's just we're it, you know. There.
See that?
Yeah,
That's quite by chance.
I love it.
It's 7:30 in the morning here. I'm interviewing in my pajamas. That's literally what I slept in last night. So here we are.
I love it. I love it totally, man. I'm on board. I can't wait to see my first UFO.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. All right, mate. Listen, thank you. It's been lovely talking to you. Congratulations on Unidentified Objects playing fantastic fest. Hopefully it'll make its way here to Australia. I run a science fiction film festival down here. So if that rolls around next year and I can do anything to bring it to Australia, I certainly will. But thank you, Matthew Jeffers. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, mate.
All right.
Thank you, buddy. Oh, it's such a joy, and congratulations on a great film as well.
Thanks for having me. Good talking to you.
Mate. Have a good night. See you later.